Yeah. So first of all, why do we need version control? So as we know, the entire tech industry revolves around code, right? So where do we store this code? Take for example, Facebook or Microsoft, or just Facebook for right now. Facebook's entire code cannot be stored on one computer, right? Because if some damage is done to this computer, the entire platform's code will be lost. Now, you might suggest to take a backup of this code by zipping it and storing it on Google Drive, because that's what I used to do till now whenever I wanted to take backup of something. So we just zip it and upload it to the Google Drive, right? But what if you want to again edit that code sometime later? Then you would have to download the zip from the Google Drive, extract it, and then edit it again, and go through all this process. And this is not really convenient, right? Like, mm, for anyone. So especially when you are working in a team of hundreds and thousands of people, like how it is in MNC, it is not at all convenient. So that's where version control comes in. So a version control system is a system that records changes to a file or a set of files over time. So you can recall specific versions later. So what this means is it keeps track of your progress throughout, while you're uploading the code. So for example, I have made changes yesterday and I recognize that there is a bug that I made yesterday. So I want to squash it. So what can I do? I cannot like take the platform down for squashing the bug, right? So version control will help me do that, while I can revert back to a previous state of the stable code, and I can fix my bug while the stable is running. So okay, just a second. I'll disable my video. I think it's giving me some bandwidth issues. We'll continue just on audio. Yeah. So version control, it allows you to revert selected files back to a previous state. It can revert the entire project back to a previous state, compare changes over time, see. Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the most important points of version control, that when you are working in an organization, you can see who made the changes, who has made the changes and modified that code that is causing the problem or causing the bug. And that's one of it. And yeah, moving on to its types, there are basically sorry, there are basically two types of version control systems, the first being centralized and the second being decentralized or distributed. So what happens in a centralized version control system is that the entire records are stored in one database, and that database refers to the different files that you have stored over time. So this version control system, sorry, just a second. So what was I talking about? Yeah, version control, centralized version control. So in the early times of version control, when it was introduced, this approach was used, this centralized approach. So Subversion and CVS are some examples, if you might know, of centralized version control system. Now this is not exactly reliable so much, because if something happens to this centralized server, the entire system crashes down, coming down, and comes down. So it's not really reliable, right? So that's why distributed version control was introduced. What happens in a distributed version control is that, as you can see in the figure, a copy is stored in the server computer and multiple copies of it are stored over the internet. So Git and Mercurial are two excellent examples of this type of version control system, this distributed type of version control system. And yeah, that's basically it. And I'll let Aditi take on from here. Aditi.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Okay. So why to use Git? Git allows you to collaborate between different users and different developers. It also allows you to develop a code in a one place. It is also easy to manage with a large code bases. And as Atharva said, it is a distributed version control system. It is very easy to use. In a simple way, we can say a Git is a distributed version control system. That means many developers can work on a single project without having on the same network. It also allows you to coordinate work between multiple developers and track every single version or a changes made on a system or a project. Usually when we use Git, we create a repository on a local machine that you work on, and then you upload the remote repository. Uploading a remote repository is nothing but pushing a repository to the remote network. Repository is nothing but a folder or a project which you have created. Atharva, can you change the slide? Yeah. The next is how to install a Git. It is very simple. You can just go through the above link and download the version which you need to according to your operating system. You can also verify whether it has been installed properly or not by using git double hyphen version. It will show you the version of the Git which you have installed. Moving forward, Atharva, please change the slide. Yeah. Moving forward to the basic commands of the Git. The very first command is git help. Git help Git help will display info about Git where you will get all the commands along with a description. Instead of every time googling out every command, you can just go through the git help command. The next one is git log. Git log is used to display all the logs of previous commits you have made to the repository or project. The next one is the very much important command, that is git add. Git add will Git add will add the file to the staging area. What is exactly means a staging area? When you are trying to lock your file or a code, you need to commit. But before that, we need to put the file in a staging area so that we can commit. Now, if you want to see what is in a staging area, then we can use git status command, which will show a status of a working directory. Then next is a git init. This will initialize a repository or create an empty repository, and which will have a .git folder which is disabled by default. The next one is git commit. When we are ready with all the changes, then we just need to commit a file by using git commit command. We can also put a message so that we can know how many and what changes we have made in a repository. When we commit, it will be put into a local repository. Now, if we want to share our repository to remote repository, what we will do, we will use the command git push. This command will take you to a local repository, then push into a remote repository. The next command is git pull. Git pull is like if we need to see changes, if we need to see pull changes to remote repository or want to integrate with another repository, then git pull command will help us. Also, if someone makes any changes in project and you want to see latest version, then also we can use this command. Then the very most important command is git fork. Git fork is used to make an online copy of a certain repository which is not yours. Like you want to add some features to existing repository or project that is not yours, then you need to first fork and then make a clone of a repository. After that, the last command is git branch. Git branch let you create a list, or you can rename a branch as well as delete a branch. It doesn't let you switch between branches or put a fork history back together again. For this reason, Git branch is tightly integrated with Git checkout and Git merge command. There are so many commands like git checkout, git merge, but for now at a beginner level, this command will work perfectly fine. The next part will be explained by Atharva, and stay tuned with us. We will have a surprise at the end, and we will have a demo on all these commands so that you can get in a better way. Yeah. Over to you, Atharva.
Thank you, Aditi, for that explanation. So, okay, moving on. GitHub. Yes, the main topic of the webinar. So GitHub is basically a platform for developers to store their code in an organized manner. It can also be used as a collaborative tool for developers to reach out and to other developers and collaborate on their projects. So okay, first let's talk about Git again. Git allows you a tree-like structure where by default everything is stored in a branch called as master, and you can create as many branches as you like. Now, okay, so now that we are talking about branches, why do we exactly need branches? So it's kind of an extra security feature, if you will, so that someone does not accidentally make changes to the master branch. And that's because master branch is the main branch. So yeah, back to GitHub. Also, if you want to contribute to someone else's project, it is a good practice to create a new branch and make your edits over there, because that's a good practice basically. Okay, so an overview of the platform. Yeah, so GitHub is one of the most popular platforms for version control, no doubt, because and recently it was acquired by Microsoft. I don't know how many of you know that. Not recently, quite a while ago. So yeah, if Git is the ingredient, GitHub is the final product, because Git is the version control technology that is used by GitHub. GitHub is not a version control system in it by itself. Git is, and GitHub is a platform that uses Git, the version control system, and it is also the largest hub of open source software, GitHub. So okay, talking about open source, what do I mean about collaborating using GitHub? It means that it allows you to contribute to open source software. For those of you who don't know, there are two main types of software. The first one is proprietary, and the second one is open source. So some examples of proprietary software. I think most of us are familiar with what is proprietary software. Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Microsoft Windows itself, on which this presentation is being played. These all are examples of proprietary software. So why are they called proprietary? These softwares are these require some sort of subscription or a payment for you to use them. So open source, on the other hand, open source software is like free for all. You don't need to pay anything to use open source software. So if they are free, why call it open source? It is because the code of these softwares is open for everybody to view, edit, and use. There are licenses attached to it, which I will show later while demonstrating GitHub. But yeah, that's the main point. It's free to use software. Open source software is free to use software. And some examples of open source is the Firefox browser, Ubuntu OS, the operating system, GIMP, the photo editor, if you know it, and there are many more. There are a ton of open source projects that you can look up on Google. So yeah, if a software is open source, you can also look at their source code and make edits. Like for example, if you want to add some new features, or you want to report a bug, or even solving the bug or squashing the bug, So all this is allowed in open source software. This is not easily available in proprietary software. Like sometimes these organizations which sell proprietary software might invite people as a part of a bounty hunting program, if you know what that is. A bounty hunting program, okay, so that's a different domain. I'll not go there right now. Where was I coming back? Okay, huh. So open source, you can basically make edits to the software or to the source code of open source software. And yeah, so this is exactly where the branch stuff comes in. Remember, I talked about master branch and creating own branches and all. So this is where it comes in. If you want to contribute a new feature to an open source software, you need to first fork it. There is an option called fork on GitHub, which allows you to make a copy of the repository in your local Git, sorry, not in local, in your own GitHub account. So Aditya explained that quite well. And so yeah, so when you fork it, then only you can make edits to it. Yeah, so GitHub is a platform where millions of open source projects are stored. So you can easily use it to collaborate with their developers. And also you can not just contribute code and collaborate with in terms of code, but also documentation. Documentation is an important part of software that is usually neglected in the software industry. Not neglected, I think looked down upon mostly. So that is also something that you can contribute to, and I have been doing that in the last 2 months. Not much active, I must admit, but I've been doing it. And sponsored projects, yeah. So if you think there are some projects on GitHub that when you visit them, you might see a sponsor button over there. So you can also sponsor some projects if you have the enough resources and you think that this project is good enough for a sponsorship. So you can sponsor them. Okay, enough theory. Let's dive into action. Let's see GitHub in action. I'll just stop sharing my screen for a while and share again. Just a second. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Okay. Tell me when it is visible so I can start.
Yeah, now it is visible.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the GitHub dashboard. Let me just log out so you can see what it looks like when you don't have an account. Yes, so this is the URL github.com, and this is what we are talking about right now. So you can just sign up. It's a simple sign up form. You have to choose a username, email, and password, and just signing using that. So I'm signing it right now. Okay. So when you sign in, this is the home page of GitHub, and let's show you the dashboard. So this is my GitHub dashboard, this or profile, if you will. So this is where you can create repositories. Okay, so I forgot to mention, sorry. Every project in that is uploaded to GitHub is uploaded in a what do you say, structure called as a repository. So it's just a terminology used to describe a project folder in GitHub. So I have created a repository already for demonstrating this. By the way, these are the repositories I have worked on before, or starred, and that's, yeah, starring is basically like liking it, like adding it to your favorite repositories. So not much there. Okay. So I think I will just demonstrate how to do this again. If you want to create a new repository, you can just hit the new button over here and then give this a name. So what should we name this? Let me see this. Okay, available. Yeah, so all these options are, I'll walk you through it right now. Public or private. So this is a major setting in the repository. You can change it later if you want, but right now we'll go with public. If you are looking for creating a project that will be open source at some point, yeah, I recommend you to go with the public option, because open source is free for all to view, right? So that's it. Private repositories are used when you are mostly in an organization and they are selling proprietary code, so they don't want other people to see their code. So that's when you choose a private repository, or you can choose it also if you want to. So initializes repository. Okay, so this readme file, these are all optional steps. You might or might not choose to go with them. I'll just walk you through it anyway. Add a readme file. So this step will create a sample documentation, a template of a sample documentation that will be in a metadata format, empty format. So what is this? If you want to describe how to use your project, how to use or how to contribute to the project you are building, you can write the instructions in that, and documentation, basically documentation in short. So if you want to add documentation, you can check this box. If not, feel free not to. You can add it later manually. So I'll just check it right now. Git ignore. So this git ignore file is something that is very important in web development projects. Like if there is someone here over here in the meeting who knows what Node.js is, or has worked on web projects before, including React.js or AngularJS, you might know that there are a ton of dependencies that you first need to install, and these all dependencies are stored under the node modules folder in the project structure, right? So you really can't like upload all these dependencies in your repository. It will take too long to push and pull. So what this git ignore file does is, you can whichever files or file names are listed under this git ignore file, these files will not be added for staging the next time you push or push to the repository. So basically you don't need to upload all those node module dependencies in your repository. Okay, the third option is choose a license. So this option again comes when you are you are deciding whether to go with open source or proprietary. I think there are mostly open source licenses in here. So if you are wanting to make your project open source, there are these two licenses: the GNU General Public License version 3.0 and MIT license are the most popular licenses right now for open source softwares. So what does this license do? It basically prevents people from misusing your code. It's basically a terms and conditions kind of thing. So I'll not choose it right now. And when you are comfortable with whatever you have chosen, just hit create repository and it will create a repository. So let's wait while. Okay, so now so this is basically a repository structure, this repository page. And if I want to add something in it, so already you see that there is already one file in this readme.md. So this is the documentation file that we were talking about. We can edit this later. So how do I create a local copy of this repository into my computer? So I just hit the code button, and this URL, there is a clipboard icon over here. So this will just copy the URL. So what this URL is it is the git remote. It is the remote URL of the repository. So this will allow me to clone my repository into my local machine. Let's show you how. Go to desktop. My screen is still visible, right?
Yes.
So you can see the desktop over here, right?
Atharva, you are showing a GitHub profile,
Okay, okay. I think I
not
shared
the
a
command
web.
prompt. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Just a second. I'll fix that. Is my desktop visible now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'll just, okay, so I have now copied the remote URL, and what I have to do is open a git bash here. This is after you have installed git, by the way. You first need to install git by going through the steps that Aditi mentioned in her slide. And after you install it, it will provide an option like this, or if it doesn't, you can just start a CMD right here, and you just clone it. So this is the command git clone and space, and then enter the URL of the, yeah. So this is basically the remote URL that I copied from here, and let's hit enter. Sorry, just it's being non-responsive for some reason. Yes, so the repository has been cloned into our system now, and I'll just demonstrate how we add files in this. So I'll just open this with my VS Code editor. I'm going to create a new C++ file.
Atharva, you need to zoom in a bit. The font is not visible.
Okay, okay, sorry. Thank you for informing. Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What should we write? I'll just write hello for now. And let's save this as a C++ file and save. Okay, so now that this has been saved, if I refresh here, the file will not be updated because the file has been created in the local machine, not in the remote repository. So in order to push, okay, so in order to reflect the changes in my GitHub, I will need to push it, make a push operation on this file. So I need to, just a second, yeah. So I will first, so I need to navigate into the project folder first. So okay, so what I did here, git add space dot. I basically added this dot means add all the files in the current active directory. So if there were multiple files, say hello1, hello2, hello up to n, this command would have added all the files to the staging area. And okay, so let me just explain in brief what the staging area means. Let's imagine, let's take an example of a rocket. So whenever a rocket is launched, it is launched in, it is first staged, right? So it is staged on the launch pad. So this is basically staging, and mm, yeah, that's what staging means. So you make the file ready for pushing into GitHub. And yeah, so git status, I just yeah, so this git status command confirms if your file was added or not. If it was not added, it would be showing this in red color. So now that it has been added, it has shown me in green color. I'll add a commit message to this -m. This -m stands for message. Basically, you need to add a commit message for every staged file that you are going to push. Commit m. Hello.
Even the git batch is a bit small.
Oh, sorry. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, so should I explain the from first, or is it cool? Should I just go on? I'll just go on. So commit. I have created a commit message over here that says created hello.cpp, and I'll enter. Yes, and yeah, see, this is the master branch that I was talking about. So master, the by default, this file will be pushed to the master branch, and this is the commit ID. It's actually a very long ID. It's just showing the first part of the commit. So this will be really useful if you are working on long-term projects and you want to go back to a specific commit that you made like months or weeks ago. So that's, or even years ago. So that's where this ID will be useful. And let's just push it. So git push origin master. This command is this origin master part is because the origin, the remote origin has been added, and I'm going to push this to the master branch. If I was pushing this to a separate branch, I would need to enter the branch name over here. So like branch X or whatever the branch name may be. So right now, since it is master, this is also master. I'll push. Okay, so it has pushed the file, and yeah, again, this ID is the commit ID. The, yeah, see, this part was being showed over here. So this is the entire commit ID and master branch. So I'll just show, refresh. See, so the hello.cpp file, yeah, so this was the commit message I entered, right? And yeah, okay, so it is showing me 2 minutes ago, but how is this possible? I just pushed right now, right? So this timestamp, this 2 minutes ago timestamp is of the time when I created the commit. When I did the commit message, this timestamp is of that time. So no matter when you push, the timestamp will always refer to the time when you committed the file, not actually push the file. And this is the basic of pushing to GitHub. In by chance, okay, so what happens in a scenario like if this is right now, this is a one user project, so I am the only developer who is pushing or pulling anything from or to this GitHub repository. What happens if someone else is doing this? Like another developer has pushed something to the repository, and I want the changed repository to reflect back in my local machine. So Okay, I'll just demonstrate. I'll just create a new file over here from right here, and let's name this file hello2.c. I'll just copy the code from here. Sorry for being lazy. Why not? And I will just commit this new file. Okay, so now this new file is created in the remote repository on my GitHub. If I want this file to get downloaded into my local project structure, local repository, I need to use the git pull command. So what git pull will do, it will pull all the changes that were made to the repository since the time I last pushed to it. So let's do a git. Okay, so let's just do git pull. Yeah, so if you see over here, the hello2 file has been now downloaded in my local repository, and that's how git pull works. So if what happens if I want to see all the commits that I made, so that's where git log is useful. Log basically fetches all the logs of the commits that were pushed onto the repository. So it will show me every commit that was made. So initial commit, yeah, and this is it displays the latest committed files on the top and the oldest at the bottom. So the initial commit was the first commit that was created by default, that GitHub created when we created this repository with a readme file. So that has this initial commit 12 minutes ago, and after that I use this commit to push, and this I used right now. So all this, yeah, so this is really useful when you want to revert back to an like a really old version of your own code. So, or just revert back to any version of your code. If you know the commit ID or the commit message, if you remember it, you can just revert back to it. So I think that's it for my part right now. I think we will demonstrate the branch thing. Aditi?
Yeah, Dhruv.
Yeah, so just a second.
Share the link of your repository, please.
Yeah, okay, just a second. Yeah, I've shared the link in the chat.
Thanks, Dhruv.
Aditi, can you share your screen so that we can?
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah.
Hello, Atharva?
Yeah.
I'm not able to see the request control option here.
I think, yeah, I think I disabled that. Just a second, I'll just enable it again. I think you should be able to present now. Check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it is visible?
Yeah, it's loading. Just give it a second. Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. So now what I will do, first I will fork this repository so that I can get a copy of Atharva's repository which he has created. Now just I'm using a command prompt. Just go to command prompt and I'm opening my desktop. Right. After that, I'm going to this part code. You see here, just copy the link. Again, go to command prompt. Now, I will do git clone, which will create a copy of his repository, of remote repository on my local machine. So yeah, it's cloning. Yeah, done. Now, just open a folder MSA session 1. After that, what I have to do, I have to create a new file, or if you need to add features to existing repository, you should do this. Now I will create a branch. How we can do that? Git branch and branch name, and after that we will do git checkout. So both this command I am doing in one command. Git checkout -b and your branch name, branch. So here you can see I have switched to new branch, that is branch test. So what I will do here, I want to add a new file. You can see the folder which I have cloned from a remote repository. See, all files are visible. Now I have to add a new file. So I have already created a file naming branch. I will just copy paste it in this MSA session folder. Yeah, done. So now I have to bring this folder at a staging area. So how we can do that? By using git add command. Git add and a file name which we have created, that is branch. Done. So now we can see a status, git status. This will give a status of your working tree. You can see I have created a new file naming branch.cpp. So now it is just a staging area. Now I have to commit, that means I have to log this file in MSI session folder. So I will do git commit hyphen and a message saying created branch. Okay, yeah. See, one file is changed into a branch test and having a code over here. So after that, I have created a new file branch which is on my local machine. Now I have to push this file to a remote repository so that Atharva can see the changes which I have made. So for that, I will have a command git push origin and branch name. What was my branch name? Branch test. Yeah, it's done. Now I will, so that after that pushing the repository, I have to do compare and pull request. Here you can see the master files. I am having a branch test also. So now I will do compare and pull request and just create a pull request. Yeah. Now after creating, yeah, hello.
No, sorry, go on.
Okay. After creating pull request, Atharva will receive a notification where he can either merge a pull request or deny it. So what steps we have followed, I will revise once again. First we have fork, then we clone a copy of a remote repository. Then we open the folder, that is repository, and then create a new branch. and in that branch I have added a new file naming branch. After adding, it will be in a staging area. After that, I have logged the file by using commit command. Then I have pushed the local repository into a remote repository. And the last step is compare and pull and create a new pull request. So yeah, Atharva, you can continue now.
Okay, thank you Aditi for that, and I think you can stop the screen share.
Yeah, just a second.
Yes.
Yeah, done. You can continue now.
Okay, so I'll just share my screen and demonstrate how the pull request, I view the pull request. So is the screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay. Now you might see that this pull request section has nothing in it because I have not refreshed it yet. Just a second. Yes, now this pull request shows 1, and that is because Aditi made a pull request. So this is the pull request that she made. So what is a pull request exactly? Pull request is a request that I want to I have made some edits to your code, and I have checked it thoroughly. There are no conflicts with the with your master branch, and it will not mess the code up totally. So you can, so I want you to add this to your main code. So that's what a pull request basically is. So since I am the owner of this repository, it will give me an option of either merging this pull request, which will add Aditi's code to my master branch, or I can just close the pull request. If I close it, it will just be closed. So it will not merge into my code. I'll just accept. Let's just show you. There is no other file right here. There are only these 3 files, and after I accept the pull request, yes, after I merge the pull request, it asks me to confirm the merge, and I'm confirming the merge. So now if we go to the code, see this file created by Aditi has now been merged into my master branch. So this, I think, sums it up, the basics of Git and GitHub. I think we covered up on the basic concepts like pushing, pulling, what the staging area is, how to add files to the staging area, what is a commit, and yeah, so all the basics. So I think there is just one more slide left, and I'll just walk you through it. Okay, so GitHub for students. I think most of us that are attending this right now are students. So what GitHub does is it provides a GitHub student developer pack. So what this GitHub student developer pack sorry for that. What this GitHub student developer pack is that GitHub provides you with a really a bunch of tools and platforms that are basically free while you are a student. So all these tools like Canva, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and really lots of premium stuff they just give you for free because you're a student. On some platforms it is limited for a certain duration, like for example you can see this interview cake is only for 3 weeks, or I think there is one more something like this. There are many, but it's really great that they are providing all these premium class platforms for free just because you're a student. So I think we should make use of it. And if you want to, you just need to create a GitHub account to get this pack. And since I already have a GitHub account, I don't think I can demonstrate how I already have this pack activated on my account. So when you just Google GitHub Student Developer Pack and sign in with your GitHub account and then click on Get Your Pack. So it will just redirect you to a very basic form, like what it will ask you for your student details and just some personal, not personal, some questions on why you want this pack and how you will make use of it if you get it. So this is one. And another thing that I wanted to share is, yes, the surprise. So the surprise is that we are actually arranging Git is a must learn skill for every developer today, right? I'm hosting this session because it is an essential skill right now. What I'm doing is I'm hosting a learning session for everyone who is interested in learning Git, and this is totally for free. There are no charges included whatsoever, and we will connect online on the next Saturday, 26th of September, I think. Yeah, 26th of September uh, at 11 a.m. in the morning, 11 a.m. IST, Indian Standard Time. And we will just start learning it on ProGate. ProGate is basically a learning platform, like an interactive learning platform. It's a Japanese learning platform, and it's really great. So you guys should definitely check it out. So yes, this is ProGate. I think I'll need to sign in first. All right, cool. So ProGate actually provides you with a lot of courses on um, multiple platforms like web development and yeah. So yeah, web development path. Yeah, Ruby on Rails and Node.js, React.js. You can learn the Google's latest language, Go. So if you are interested, of course. And yeah, so ProGate is where this learning session is going to be hosted. And one lucky participant on during this session, after completing this session, will receive 1 month of ProGate Plus subscription. So that's the surprise for you right now. And I think there is nothing else. Aditi, you want to add something?
No, Atharva.
Okay, cool. So yes, I think we have time for question and answers. So if anybody has any doubts regarding to the session or to the subject in general, please ask them in the chat so we can answer them.
Or you can just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah. That is also fine. Okay, so the first question we have here, what are merge conflicts? Okay, so that is a very good question. Thank you, Akshay, for asking that question. So merge conflicts. Merge conflicts are something that every developer should be scared of in the beginning when, or in general, we are all scared of merge conflicts. So merge conflict is something that happens like right now, like we demonstrated the merge request thing. If Aditi had made some crucial changes in the code that do not match with the code on the existing on the previous code, or let's just put it in a simple way, if there is something in her code which will mess up the core functionality of the code in my repository, GitHub will automatically detect it and raise a merge conflict. So let's take for example, I'll share my screen once again. Is my screen visible? Okay, just a second. I think it should be visible now. Please tell me if my screen is okay. Okay.
Yes, yes. Now your screen is visible.
Okay. So let's say this is my original code, right? And let's say Aditi changed the main function content somehow that my original code is getting, like, if she created another main function like this in her version of the repository, and she added something like, and if she tries to merge, if she creates a pull request with this kind of code, what Git will do is it will automatically detect that there is a merge conflict, because this existing code is repeated over here, and it will not be able to detect which is the correct piece of code that I want to keep on the repository. So it will raise a merge conflict, and it will ask me, the developer, to resolve the issue. So then I can just manually edit the piece of code that Aditi did wrote, or if her one is right and my code is wrong, I can just delete my piece of code so that this is the one that is the correct one, and then I can merge it. So that's what basically a merge conflict is. I think that answers the question. Okay, so another question. Hey Atharva, I have a question. The difference between Git and SVN is that Git is a proprietary and SVN is open source. Is this the only difference? Better.
Can I answer this, Atharva?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so basically, like, I want to add something to the merge conflict thing too, and then I will answer this one, Harshvardhan. So the merge conflict happens when there is some code written on a line, and then someone other person makes a changes to his or her code, and then you try to merge those things. So basically, what Git understands is like it understands line of code. Like if there is a line 1, it was written there like void main, and someone changes it to void hello, then that time it will see that yeah, line 1 was hello world, sorry, was void main, and now it is void hello. So there is some change, and both want to stay on the line number 1. That time the merge conflict takes place. Now merge, when do we merge? It is basically between two branches, or when we make a pull request. Like there are two occasions, so both the times the line of code is the main origin thing. Like if the same line has different characters, then it will show a merge conflict, and then you have to select like which one is the correct one you want. The person who made a change, the change you made, or you want to keep both the changes. So when you keep both the changes, it will add the line 1 thing into line 2, and then it would like manage it. Okay. And now SVN. Talking about SVN and Git is also open source, by the way. It's not proprietary. It was purchased by Microsoft, but it is still open source, and you can find it on GitHub. If you go and search for GitHub Git, you will find the repository. If you want, I can share the link. Now the difference between SVN and Git is that SVN is what you can say is centralized version control system, and Git is distributed version control system. Okay. Now, what is centralized and what is distributed? Now, when you talk about distributed is like, in this case, you have to install Git in your PC. If you are making a project on your own and you don't have any partner with you, at that time, you can make your own commits. You can track your project on your local PC itself. You won't require a GitHub for that. Now that's when distributed helps us. But talking about SVN, SVN is centralized. For that, you will always require a server, and whatever commits you make, it will be directly going to the server, and you don't need to push or pull there. Like your commit is directly a push. That's the difference. Like did that answer? Okay.
Thank you, Vinit, for that answer. Are there any more questions? Suggest some open source projects on Python for beginners. If you want to go with open source projects using Python, I think there are there are really a lot of projects that are open source and that use Python. If you are interested in web development, I think you should go with Django or Flask. I'll just paste their links over here for your convenience. Django and Flask are the common ones for they are web frameworks that are developed in Python. And if you so if you're interested in web, you should go with Django or Flask. If you are someone who is interested in game development, you can go with Pygame. So game. Pasting the links to the projects. Django project, Flask, Pygame. Yeah, and there are many more, like if you're interested into artificial intelligence or machine learning and deep learning, you can take a look at I think PyTorch is one of the frameworks that are TensorFlow is actually TensorFlow is also fine. TensorFlow mainly uses Keras, so it's a Python library again, so that's right. TensorFlow is right. TensorFlow, PyTorch. There are literally like a ton of projects that are open source and that use Python. So just look it up on Google and you'll find a ton. Okay, so any other question? But TensorFlow is mainly used for machine learning. Yes, TensorFlow is. I'm not an AI field person, so this might be my ignorance, but I think it is just used for machine learning. If anybody knows anything else, they can put their thoughts over here in the chat box. We can take two more questions. So if anybody has any question, please ask in the chat box. Yeah, again, I'm not a AI kind of person, so TensorFlow is not really my thing. I don't know much of it, so can't speak much in that field. Vineet, there is a doubt about merge conflicts again. What would you like to know more about merge conflicts, Harshavardhan? Can you elaborate so that he can answer?
Can we like directly demonstrate it, Atharva?
Sorry, what?
Can we like directly demonstrate a merge conflict to them? Like if Aditi makes some changes to a code which you have wrote, the same line, if she changes and then you change it.
No, wait. I think he wants something else. Harshavardhan, can you just unmute your mic and ask your question, so that will be faster because we are running out of time.
Yeah, sure, sure. Can you, Vinitji, can you just share me a link which can clearly explain me what more we can know about merge conflicts? Means how they can occur, or means more examples regarding merge conflicts. Can you share me a link about it?
Yeah, I'm doing it. Just a minute.
Yeah, thanks.
I was gonna share the same link. Actually, Atlassian is not a
Yeah,
Microsoft product, but
yeah,
still, it's one of my favorite sites to like refer through some concepts. Yeah,
yeah,
Microsoft Learn
definitely.
is there if you want to learn from there. It is also good, but it is for very beginner thing. Like,
Yeah,
if you want to just learn something at a very early stage, and then afterwards you can go to Atlassian's website, and then you can learn some better things to like some more difficult things too.
advanced.
Advanced things, yeah. Advanced would be better word.
And the last question which I want to ask is that if I want to learn Git more efficiently, more correctly, or we can say in deep, so which site or which platform should I choose to learn it?
I
If
think
you
I can take this one, Vinny.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So I think if you want to learn Git in deep, like in depth, I think you should just start working on a project with one of your friends. There are many platforms that will give you a learning like environment for Git, but I think you will learn the most when you do it yourself. So I think that's like if you want to learn on platforms, there is Code Academy, there is Progate, which I just talked about. So you can join on 26 September, and that's about it. Basically, just work on Hacker Rank. Hacker Rank is also a great platform. Thank you, Shreyas. Um, so I would recommend you start working on some project. Like you asked. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
understand. Thank you,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
and thanks Vinit as well for clearing my doubts and answering my questions.
It's a pleasure. Actually, my answer to the question would be different. Like the way I learned it is from this thing. You would get a batch on this website. This is Microsoft Learn. So basically, it's not because I am a Microsoft student ambassador, but this is the website which I referred for the first time, and then I got best of out of it. So maybe this can help too. You can like go through it once and then maybe decide. This one is also good, like the way Atharva mentioned. Progate is also good, but this would be more informative, I guess. Maybe you can try both of them. Your call.
Yeah. Just check out which one suits better for you. Because Microsoft Learn is like a seriously vast platform where you can learn, I think, almost any recent technology which is Microsoft owned. There is a Coursera course on Introduction to Git and GitHub too. Thank you, Akshay, for that.